All right, so we wanted to welcome everybody to First Tuesdays with Heart. It is February 4th, 2025. I have no idea how we're already in February. Um, this program is sponsored by our Heart Peer Support Team in connection with the Resiliency and Justice Center out of Las Vegas. HEART stands for Healing, Empowering, and Rebuilding Together, or peer support for anyone impacted by any mass violence incident. So the HEART team, we have Alice, who is a licensed professional counselor, and she's also a certified professional coach. She's the co-director of the Heart Peer Support Program, and she's also the Route 91 and UNLV support group facilitator. Jackie, who unfortunately is not with us tonight, she is sick, is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's the behavioral health program coordinator for the Resiliency and Justice Center. She's one of our original Heart coaches, and she is the Route 91 and Third Tuesdays with Heart support group facilitator. Alice does the Wednesday during the day, and Alice does the Wednesday evening. No, Jackie does Wednesday evening. And I'm Jill Winter. I'm co-director of Heart. I'm a Route 91 survivor. I assist Alice with the UNLV support group, and Jackie and I do the Third Tuesdays with Heart support group together. So we like to always start our programs with a meme or a quote. We found this and thought this was great for mindfulness. To protect your energy, it's okay not to answer a call. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to want to be alone. It's okay to take a day off. It's okay to do nothing. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to let go. Okay, so tonight we are absolutely thrilled to have Dr. Alma Dell Smith with us. Alma Dell is a clinical psychologist and research assistant professor at the National Mass Violence Center, and which is part of the Medical University of South Carolina. Her work has focused primarily on stress assessment and treatment, with a particular emphasis on psychophysiological effects of stress and trauma. Dr. Smith was a trailblazer in integrative medicine and the women's health unit at Boston Medical Center, where she specialized in coordinating psychological and medical care with an urban health clinic. She's also the co-author of two widely recognized books on stress, The Stress Solution and Stress in Marriage. For the past 7 years, Dr. Smith has been contributing to the National Mass Violence Center by developing innovating online content and apps, including Transcend, which Alice is always talking about, great for mass shooting survivors, and the National Mass Violence Virtual Resilience Center. So we are thrilled to have her here, and I'm going to stop sharing.
So I want to be talking about trauma sensitive mindfulness and meditation. They're sort of interchangeable for a lot of people. With the idea that it's a way through both ordinary and difficult times. So I'll be talking about how we might use it when we're in distress, but also just every day getting through things. So actually, I want to start before I go anywhere with this. To ask you to settle into wherever you're sitting and kind of tune into yourself. Maybe even do a kind of little body scan, starting on the top of your head and just kind of checking through. Just see how you're feeling physically, how you're feeling. Are you tired? Are you a little stressed? Are you doing okay? Maybe a little hungry or not? All the way down to your toes. And just feel those toes for a moment. And then, if you're comfortable, you can just kind of half close your eyes or close your eyes, and then let your arms feel heavy and relaxed. And let your legs feel heavy and relaxed. Let your breathing become gentle and even. And slowly let your mind become calm and quiet. We're here together this evening in a safe and supportive and caring atmosphere. So as you settle in, also just allow yourself to kind of be a little open to whatever might unfold with us tonight. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, open your eyes if you'd like. And that is just a sample of a mini mindfulness exercise. It might not have even been 2 minutes, but we'll expand on that and do even more. So, what I'm going to do is present some information and then do some more of these short mindfulness experiences, and then have time at the end for questions or comments, sharing how you use this, things of that sort. So, here we go. Learning objectives. What is it? How to better be able to observe your own physical sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Learn non judgmental awareness of thoughts, moods, and sensations. That's a little tricky. A lot of times we say, I don't want to feel this. I wish that thought's not here. But non gentle, judgmental awareness. How to notice when your mind wanders, which it will, and then refocusing your attention to the present moment. And then experience how mindfulness can improve your well-being, even from moment to moment. We want to talk a little bit about how to manage trauma reactions, stress, and low mood. Experience the benefits. We may not cover all this tonight, but acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude, curiosity. These are things that we want to invite into our practice, especially compassion for ourselves, for what's going on with us, curiosity about what's going on with us, forgiveness, and also that acceptance. So, talk a little bit about informal practices, mindful eating, walking, and listening, and then invite you to make a plan to practice this on a regular basis. Again, a little disclaimer. Mindfulness and meditation are not treatments for PTSD or trauma reactions. It may help with calming, which also helps with processing these things. So it's helpful along with other, either a treatment program or any other programs you have to cope with what you've been through. I think it helps to increase tolerance for these painful emotions, which then facilitates emotional processing. So hopefully with mindfulness practice, you increase your ability to let disturbing images and thoughts come and go. This too will pass, as Jill says. Increase your ability to turn your mind to the present moment rather than reliving the past or worrying about the future. And again, being compassionate towards yourself. Little tips for trauma sensitive meditation or mindfulness practice. I'll probably use them interchangeably. So, if you have a history of dissociation or severe trauma, you want to you have a guide, be guided by a trauma informed teacher or counselor. So, if you find that you try this and it's just really like upsetting or whatever, use a guide and then try it again in a different setting with more support. Sometimes increased heart rate, pain, other sensations may remind you of a traumatic experience. Again, notice this and then return to your breath. It might stay around for a while and just keep breathing, keep doing the mindfulness, grounding yourself with the idea that allow it to pass. You can open your eyes, you can shift your body, you can take a break, try it again. Traumatic events can change your ability to comfort yourself or control emotions. So we want you to feel safe and supported. You always have the choice to stop until you're better able. There's no bad feelings about stopping. Try again later, even within this session or another day. You can listen to this thing again at some other time. So finding a way to ground yourself if the emotions begin to come up. And that I gave you in the very beginning, my very favorite short grounding: arms heavy and relaxed, legs heavy and relaxed. I've been using this ever since I was in graduate school. I hate to say 40 years ago. But find some go-to grounding practices for when things get a little dicey. So what is mindfulness? And I do want to take any kind of mystery out of it. Though in some ways there is a lot of mystery. People have been doing this practice for thousands of years, and millions of people do it. It came from the East a lot, but the West has their prayer traditions, their chanting traditions. There's, listen for the small, still voice. Um, so they're, I think around the world, they call it different things, but it's the same thing about just quietly getting in touch with that inner space and sort of just being with yourself in a quiet way so that you deepen your understanding of different things that happen. So this particular approach to mindfulness is being aware of what you're sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. So take a moment and feel your toes. Are they warm? Are they cold? Are they cramped? Are they fine? As you let your awareness go all the way down to your toes, it moves away from whatever else you might be thinking about, and you can just be with that. And now let your awareness shift and go to your hands. Maybe let's say your right hand. And just move your fingers a little bit and touch whatever it is that your fingers are next to. And feel that sensation. Is it fabric? Is it smooth? So you can move your awareness around your environment too. So now move your awareness to hearing. I can hear a ticking clock. You might be able to hear a cat purr. I'm not sure. So this is an example of just moving your awareness to whatever you're sensing. If your eyes are open, you can just notice a color that might be nearby. The idea is the present moment is this a moment that's available to us. And as Thich Nhat Hanh says, the door to all moments. If you have a chance to read any of his stuff or listen to his uh, YouTube videos, he's just a very calming sort of teacher. So let's talk a little bit about mindful or mindful. Um, in a fast-paced life, or if we've been through experiences that are very intense, there can be a jumble of thoughts. They can come tumbling after each other. They can be intrusive, coming in when you're trying to do one thing, and then this thought comes blasting through. And then you have another thought, like, I don't want to be thinking about that. So a lot of times we just have a lot going on up there. And it can be tiring and distracting, especially if you're driving and then suddenly you've passed your exit. So the idea is to learn how to sort of plan what's called the monkey mind, this jumping all over the place, and focus it a little bit back on the breath, back to the present moment, quieting. Then, if you do need to think about something, you're thinking about it in a much more focused and directed way as opposed to sort of jumping around. So, this is one of the ideas. But we do that by paying attention. I've given you a couple of examples of how you shift your attention. So, one of the things is that mindfulness can change your relationship to your thoughts and emotions. Plenty of times we're just so caught up in it, in the emotion, the sadness or the worry or the anxiety or even a fearful reaction, thoughts that are kind of what we call dire thoughts. And with mindfulness, we can just kind of step up a little bit above that and view them at a slight distance. There's like a little gap between you and all the thoughts and feelings, physical and emotional, that are going on with you. But the idea that as we watch these thoughts come and go, they're like leaves floating on a stream. That expression, stream of consciousness, because consciousness doesn't stay put, it moves. And we actually have plenty of I wouldn't say control because that's not really it, but we can invite our consciousness to go in certain directions. Sometimes people sit saying, I want to be calm or I want to achieve certain kinds of things. And it's not really about achievement. If you don't enter it as a achievement oriented or goal oriented or saying like I want to get this or that out of it, if you just do the practice, you'll begin to get those things when you're ready to. But the general idea is just let this stuff float on a stream of consciousness, and especially let some of the difficult ones just keep on floating. One of the things we talk a lot about at the Mass Violence Center is experiential avoidance. It's probably the most, such a most natural thing we can do as a human being, or it's like any kind. Something bad happens, you feel terrible, and the the instinct is to say, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want it anywhere near me. And so I'm never going in that part of the town again. I'm never going to another concert. And some people just don't even want to go out the door again. So as you try to avoid the sorrow, the grief, the fear, actually the love, the curiosity, the generosity of people around you, um, if you try to avoid that, it, it, it doesn't help in the long term. Uh, when you avoid things, you prevent processing the trauma. With the fresh expression, if you aren't willing to have it, you will. Now, again, take it as small bites, get a lot of support. If you know that you've been avoiding certain things, paperwork, conversations, travel in certain places, anything. If you notice anything you've been avoiding, try to think about who might support you to do that. Is it a peer support person? Is it a good friend? Is it a counselor? But in small ways, begin to approach the thing that is distressing, either scary or sad or whatever. I think sometimes with grief, the feeling is if I start to feel this grief, I will go down into it so far I will never come out. So I don't even want to touch it. As you process your grief, it does change and shift. But if you just put it on ice, it kind of sits there. I had an experience years ago, and while I was in graduate school, I had to just keep on going. And 20 years later, it came out, and I started writing about it, and I just wept and wept and wept. Um, so it, sometimes it just gets encapsulated and put over to the side. So we just want to encourage to, instead of avoidance, to work towards acceptance. So I don't know if you can see this little cartoon. Says, I want to learn how to live in the present moment, just not this moment, like some other moment, like at the beach. Um, so acceptance is back to this. It's the opposite of avoidance. It's like this too is here. I may not want it to be here. I don't necessarily like it, but I understand that this too is here. And take the experiences as what it is and not what we think it should be. Marsha Linehan, who's a wonderful researcher about all kinds of, she's like the godmother of trauma treatments. It's the willingness to accept what is, together with responding to what is in an effective and appropriate way. So it's acceptance doesn't mean a passive sort of thing like, oh, well, it just means this is the reality I'm facing. And I'm not sure, or maybe I need to think about how I'm going to respond to that or face that or deal with it. Again, in small bites, as you will. This is the kind of mindfulness can help you when you're having a strong emotion. If you say, here it is again. this grief is here again. I'm so tired of being sad. I'm so tired of this grief. And instead of distracting, you do what they say, go to the cushion. If you go to your chair, wherever it is, and sit and say, okay, all right, here it is. I don't know what it is about today. I don't know what it is about what they said, but somehow here it is again. And let me just be with my grief in a loving, soothing way that, like you would try to soothe a small child if they're crying or sad, and be with yourself and let it begin to shift, to become digested, to become changed in some way. And that's back to that it will change, it does shift. And especially then, you can say, back to my breathing, the long breath, relaxing again, and breathe in, breathe out, and allow it to shift in that way. This is what Tarbrock calls radical acceptance. Noticing when you're wishing things were different, acknowledging reality is what it is, even if you don't like it. Make the active choice to accept the situation without judgment. And the judgments they come so fast and hard. Never should have been. All the shoulds, and I should have, and they should have, and whatever. Um, it it was what it was. And then as we sit with it, you make a plan to change what you can to make your life better, or to make your relationships better, or to make your health better, or to take better care of. Maybe you need to sleep better. Not sure. So let's shift to one of the things that might be a little tricky is being aware of your thoughts. Now, those of you who journal, you write down your thoughts and you can see them on paper in that way. So, mindful thinking is getting in touch with your thoughts and feelings in a diffused and accepting way. So, I'd like to take a moment now with all of you and do the mindful thinking. So, if that's all right, again, get comfortable, sort of settle into wherever you're resting. If you'd like to close your eyes, that's fine. If not, you can just half close them and look at the floor. And we'll just begin with simple breathing in and out. Just normal breathing. Just being aware of your breath. Don't try to change it. Just notice it. Then begin to gradually deepen the breath. Just a little bit slower, a little bit deeper. And then in these few moments, become aware of what you've been thinking about as I have talked. You might have had memories, comments inside your head, feelings of relief, anything that you've been aware of. Just be aware of how you're thinking as you're breathing. Then take a moment just to focus on the breath again. And just sit quietly for a few more minutes as you just quietly breathe and be aware of your thoughts. Return to your breath. like just say, ah, I'm thinking about that. Oh, yes, that's here too. One more long breath. And if there are any questions that you're having as I'm talking, I want to leave plenty of time at the end for any questions or discussion of these moments that we have. We want to talk a little bit about sleep. Sleep is one of the things that gets really interrupted when we've had traumatic experiences or we're in the middle of distressing life uh, situations. It's also the thing that we most need when we're stressed out. The body can get really agitated, stress reaction, heart rate is exhausting. And so we most need sleep, but sometimes have difficulty falling asleep because the mind is racing or like now I didn't fall asleep right away. So now when I'm going to toss and turn, I can't stand it. I got to get up. And the more you worry about being asleep, the more you can't sleep. Uh, so mindfulness is a really lovely way to begin to quiet the mind. It's also good to have good sleep habits, go to bed at a good time where you know you'll have 7 or 8 hours of sleep, if at all possible. Maybe have a little something to eat before you if you're not hungry. Um, and use the breathing to quiet your mind. And the other idea is to be patient with yourself if you're not falling asleep, or if you wake up in the middle of the night, say, ah, I woke up. Not to get mad or upset, but just say, ah, let me breathe. Maybe get up for a minute if you need to, go back to sleep, and be patient with yourself. And one thing to remember is you may be getting more sleep than you think. If you're patient and just can lie there quietly, you're getting a lot of rest and gradually drift off to sleep. So I just want to encourage you to use these techniques for one of the most vital interventions that you can do for yourself. I'm not going to be talking about eating well. I'll talk a little bit about that. But anyway, okay. Yes, I could talk about eating mindfully. Um, eating is another way to make yourself strong so that you can cope with whatever you're dealing with. Um, Eating well, as many good foods as you can, being a little bit careful about sugar because that can add to the cortisol response. Caffeine can escalate a stress response. So pace yourself on caffeine. But mindful eating is where you would take a strawberry or a berry and just savor it. Eat a tiny bit of chocolate and just taste it. You might take a moment right now to become aware of your mouth, your jaw. If you move your tongue forward a little bit, the jaw will relax. I'm going to talk a little bit about square breathing. This is one of the things that Jill and I talked a little bit about ahead of time. We started off with more just following the natural breath without trying to change anything, maybe just making it a little bit longer. But square breathing is a special kind of breathing that has real physical effects on your body. If you're hooked up to an EKG machine and you start to do it, you can see the thing change. It's what's called a sinus arrhythmia. That a long breath in and an even longer breath out affects your vagus nerve. So you got two nervous systems. One is the activating, the sympathetic nervous system that gets you all like when you need to respond to something or you have to like get quick out of a traffic situation or something like that. Or when you've been in a terrible, terrifying situation and you just had to run really fast or whatever. The other nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. So the first one is the fight, flight, freeze, But the parasympathetic nervous system is the rest and digest, so that the body can reset itself. The nervous system actually gets sensitized when we've been really frightened, and the nerves will pop off more quickly afterwards for like 6 weeks after, 6 months after, sometimes even much longer than that. So the parasympathetic system begins to help reset those systems. And the key to the parasympathetic nervous system is this squinter breathing, which touches the vagus nerve, which goes all the way through all your organs and signals them, you're okay, slow down, it's time to digest your food, it's time to do all of these healthy things. So let's practice. You might have seen it or heard about it as a four squares. You can do it any way you want. You can do a little phrase if that helps, but I'm just going to count for you. You don't have to count, but it's basically 4 counts in and even slower out. So, hope you're ready. Begin to take a slow, deep breath into your belly as deeply as you can. 2, 3, 4. Hold it at the top momentarily. Then slowly let it out. 2, 3, 4. Even more out. Breathing in. 2, 3. Up. And breathing out. On your own pace. Let this be a long, let's do like 4 more breaths together. Slow in and slower out. You may want to try breathing out through your pursed lips, in through your nose, out through your lips. Two more. Good. And just return to natural breathing, however that's comfortable for you. The people who've been studying this vagus nerve have found plenty of other ways that it gets affected. It can be calmed. Humming turns out to be one of those. Singing. So, I mentioned chanting before about ways that people have used throughout the ages to kind of come to an inner state that feels peaceful. So, humming, singing. Another thing that you might find yourself doing from time to time is just the big long sigh of relief. That's over. So that's the same mechanism. So if you ever find yourself with a big sigh, you need a big sigh, do it. Also with a yawn. When you see that sometimes if you have a dog, sometimes they'll yawn. After they've been a little nervous, they'll yawn. Or your cat. So we do the same thing. So these are just all the small ways that we can settle ourselves down. I'm thinking about time. We did a little breathing mindfully. Let me just see what's next. Yeah. Incorporating mindfulness into your daily life. You can do short ones. 1 minute is good. 10 minutes is great. 3 to 5. 20 if you're into meditation, to sit quietly and you really want to get a very deep benefit from it. There's many videotapes, audio tapes, yoga teachers who practice this. So if you want to do it pretty consistently, daily practice, it can really make a huge difference. But I also encourage you to take these little micro meditations. Um, Sometimes when you're listening to music, you can just quietly listen, really listen, not do other things while you're listening. If you're making a cup of tea or food, do it slowly and mindfully. Okay, I'm doing this now, I'm doing that now, as a ritual. Silence. And the other thing, I had some waiting. Sometimes when I have to wait for something, I used to get impatient. I don't like to wait. And now I'm like, huh, this is a chance I can meditate. This is a chance for me just to stand here and notice my feet and stand on one foot and balance and then stand on the other foot and balance. Mindful movement, those like if you're walking, just walk and feeling the ground under your feet. If you're doing sports, even just really focusing on the sports because that'll drive anything else out of your mind. Got a ball coming at you. And then the daily activities, any daily activities. This is the old thing about clip hedges, wash dishes, doing the chores. Again, I used to not like doing dishes, but then I started doing them in a mindful meditation way, and it became part of uh, my practice. So, I mean, the monks say you just be mindful every second of your whole life. Um, so again, not not putting goals out there, but to just practice this slowly integrating it into your life. So being in the present moment. What day is it? Asked Pooh. It's today, Squeak Piglet. My favorite day, said Pooh. So returning to the present moment with the breath, noticing the thoughts, noticing your body, noticing what's around you. So we have time. I've got some at the end of other resources if you want to go back and look at them later, but we're not going to do that now. I'd love to just hear from people what you do, any questions you might have had, things you want to share with other people, and I can quit sharing my screen.
30 plus years ago, I worked for an OBGYN. So this is something I've like had in the back of my mind for that long. But she was one who had a hard time sleeping just because her mind was always racing. She would keep a notebook next to her bed with a pen and jot down what was going through her mind. And I know I've even experienced this to myself. Sometimes I'm laying awake trying to make sure that I don't forget what I need to do. So once you put pen to paper, and it's better than picking up your phone because you can get distracted by your phone, but once you put pen to paper, it's like you're releasing your mind of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. No, there's a lot of tricks that people have. I think I once saw 50 ways to fall asleep, and
Well, I want to share one thing I learned. I know right after route, a lot of people were talking about taking melatonin to help with sleep.
Mhm.
And then Jackie, who unfortunately is sick, so she's not here with us tonight, she shared that with trauma survivors, it can actually cause more vivid dreams.
Oh.
So be careful of that one if you're trying to help with sleep. Um, and then I know Alma Dell, we were talking earlier, my therapist told me about the box or the square breathing. And she to me the counting to four was not helpful. It was, the breathing is good for you, but something about the counting to four was really distracting. And when I went through Onsite's Triumph Over Tragedy program, they had a restorative yoga program. And at one point, the instructor made the comment, "This won't last forever." And it dawned on me that that was four words. So instead of one, two, three, four, I started using "this won't last forever" for each of the sides of the box. And as I shared it with others, they came up with other positive mantras that you can use and always have it be positive. We don't want anything negative because this is, being mindful, grounding you, calming you. But some people use "let go, let God, this too shall pass, I can do this." So any sort of positive forward mantra, I am safe here, because I think for most of us being safe where we are is a big one for us. So it's like doing the box or square breathing with I am safe here is a great reminder. And the more we say it to ourselves, the more we believe it.
So
Mm.
I encourage you all to consider making a daily practice for a while. Even just try it for a week or 10 days or 3 days or 1 day. But oh, that's the other thing about this meditation or mindfulness practice is that everybody falls off the wagon. Everybody says, okay, I'm going to do it. And then they don't. Or I'm going to sit for 10 minutes. And after 3 minutes, I'm up doing something else. Again, be gracious, patient, that your little monkey mind, like, okay, I'm jumping up. And the idea is that when you can, you come back. And always, always thank yourself for having done whatever you did. Thank yourself. And I'm thanking you for coming tonight, for taking care of your spirit in this beautiful way. Rather than in any time scolding yourself, just saying, okay, I did that much. And then with that intention of inviting yourself to sit again whenever you can. If you integrate it into your daily life, like, you brush your teeth or you shower or, whatever it is, you've got your daily routine. If you can add it in somewhere and pair it with those things, um, then that gives you it builds a habit of it. But it is really a healing practice.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you mentioned, Alma Dell, that is so helpful with the ruminations is we have a tendency to get mad at ourselves if they're there. And so to be able to say, like she said, oh, there it is, or there they are, and that's interesting. Okay, now I'd like to set those aside for a moment and just and kind of focus back on my breathing. They're going to still be there instead of like, I can't believe they're there again. I'm going to get to work on time and being down on ourselves for having them in the first place. So noticing them and acknowledging them, as Amadel mentioned, kind of as an observer rather than being right as a participant.
And,
Does it make
and
sense?
certain ruminations can be quite, like you said, slow you down and keep you from
Yes.
other stuff. And so, um, if you haven't checked in with a trauma informed therapist, you might want to do that with that specific um, focus
Mhm.
on trying to modulate that a little bit. And
Yeah. And
also,
this might,
and notice times that it doesn't happen.
mm,
Yeah.
that's good. And if anybody on the call tonight needs help in finding a trauma informed therapist, please let us know and we will get you connected with that. So help you find someone in your area.
So we just have a few more things before we wrap up. So we want to remind everybody that the integrative services programs offered through the Resiliency and Justice Center are available to anyone impacted by any mass violence incident. Anyone impacted, as we said earlier, includes family, friends, community members. So these are all free programs, with the exception of the equine therapy demonstration. They are all virtual. The equine therapy demonstration, if you are in Vegas, you're welcome to attend. If you're visiting Vegas, you're welcome to attend as well. And it's also something that Terry Keener, who is the therapist who does this, she was the prior behavioral health coordinator at the Resiliency Center and helped us build found route. She can do, if you don't live in Vegas, she can do the intensive programs over a couple day period, and that's also very effective. Um, and we'd encourage you guys, 2 weeks from tonight, we have Third Tuesdays with Heart, which is a support group. And if we want to talk about, what we talked about tonight, we can start with that. We can talk about anything else that's going on. So we have all these great programs. And if you got more information or to register, please go to the Resiliency and Justice Center calendar. And this is the calendar for the month. So anything that is not incident specific, anyone is welcome to attend. Everything in yellow and pink are free virtual. The dealing with loss after violence is specifically for, I think it was loss, divorce, and a few other things. And then we do have the route and the UNLV support groups as well. So additional support, if you'd like to be paired with a heart mentor, you can go to resiliencyanjustice.org/heart and click on request peer support. The disaster distress helpline has a 24/7 crisis support line. It's for anyone who's been impacted by natural or man-made disasters. So the fires would be included in the natural disasters. Obviously, mass violence incidents are man-made. So they're a great resource. And it doesn't have to be that you're having suicidal ideations. It's just, it could be in the middle of the night, you need somebody to talk to and nobody else is awake.
Mm.
So they are there for that. As we were talking about National Mass Violence Center, there is a wealth of information, both on their website and their virtual resiliency center, and also the Transcend app. So if you're looking for the Transcend app, it's this little blue purplish ball, and make sure you put in Transcend NMVC. There's a couple of different Transcends in there. So if you're having a hard time finding it, make sure you put in NMVC, which is the National Mass Violence Center.
And it has a lot of audio things you can listen to. It's not just reading stuff.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of information. Alice has been talking about it for a few years. She thinks it's amazing for mass violence survivors, so or impacted. Um,
Thank you, because that was my project.
oh, we talk about it during our mentor training, and it's in
I
our
love. I'm happy to hear that people find it helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Um, 988 for suicide and crisis. We have our first Tuesdays with Heart Facebook group, and we also have a fun page. We don't talk about anything sad for cooking for post-traumatic growth. So we share recipes if you're interested in a recipe, if you have one that you enjoy. So that's a fun place because we do know that something like cooking is really good for our mental health as well. So next month we will actually have one of Alma Dell's colleagues joining us, Ann Seymour, and she's going to be talking about navigating the media. For those of us who've been impacted by mass violence, sometimes the media can flip our words around, and I know that they're oftentimes real prevalent when an incident first happens, but they also tend to show back up around the anniversary time or if something else happens in your community. So this is some good information so that we can tell the media what we want them to hear, not what they want us to say. And that is it. We really appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us through email, through First Tuesdays. You can find me on Facebook. Any there, we're here for you guys. And Stacy, if something that like being paired with a mentor is something that might be good for you. It's because all of our mentors have experienced, gone through the mass violence incident themselves. They've been impacted, whether it's we have a family member, we have community responders. So it's literally for anyone who's been impacted by mass violence.